Hi everyone, welcome to our general meeting. I am Lawrence, your temporary president before I hand it off to Princess Miguel. All right, so today we're going to be talking about 2D versus 3D in video games. So I first want to start off with what genres you tend to associate with 2D. If you want to type in chat or if anyone here wants to say anything. Fire 'em. All right, all right. So yeah, as some people said, we have some here. We have some platformers. We have top-down. And what's important to note here is that these ones are designed in 2D using 8-bit sprites, 16-bit sprites. And then here we have some other 2D games. Metroidvania is sort of the same thing as a side-scrolling platformer. And then we also have some fighting games that have, these ones tend to have more detailed sprites. And then we also have some other 2D games, but these ones, rather than using sprites, they are rather than using pixelated sprites, these ones are hand drawn, which give it a lot more detail. And then now I'm going to ask you, what genres do you tend to associate with 3D games? If you'd like to type in chat, or if anyone here would like to say anything. Shooters. Fire Emblem, okay. Action RPGs, Genshin, FPS. All right, all right. Dating. All right. Super Monkey Ball. All right. Character action games. All right. All good options. So, as most popular one tends to be shooters. We also have some open world like RPGs type things going on over here. And it's something that we don't tend to really consider is that we also have some that use the 2D format but use 3D models in it. Like something like more recently Metroid Dread. We have Smash Bros. Ultimate, another Smash Bros. Ultimate, but with Steve. And then we also have top-down games like Link's Awakening. So we also have some games that tend to sort of merge both 2D or 3D, or they're trying to use one format to mimic another. A popular one that does this is Guilty Gear Strive. It uses all 3D models and animations, but they try to make it resemble as closely to a 2D anime as they can. And then another one would be something like Hades. They have the top-down watercolor type aesthetic, and then it really gives them their own unique style, but they're still able to keep the 3D models and everything else. Another one is Warioware. This also tries to go for the 2D aesthetic, but it still uses 3D models and everything, so it could get all the angles. And then something on the opposite end, where a 2D game tries to be 3D, we have something like the original Mortal Kombat. This was made more of because of the restrictions of its time. So they would take videos of people in front of green screens, and then they would just edit them in as a sprite sheet. And then similar thing with Donkey Kong Country. They use 3D models, and then they would just render them as images in order to let them play on the SNES. All right, and then now we're going to start talking about the 2D versus the 3D workflow. So in 2D games, you tend to use sprites, as you've gone over in previous meetings and workshops. Sprite sheets tend to be the way you portray objects. And then it's basically you have to draw out each frame, and then that's how you get your animation. However, in 3D, we use meshes for objects. So it's basically a 3D model made up of hundreds or thousands of polygons. And then you have to apply textures and other stuff to them. The thing with 3D models and meshes is that you're able to edit them more with an animation rather than redrawing an entire thing, as we'll see in the next slide. So within animation itself, as I said, 2D, you need to have each sprite to be drawn in order to get the effect that you want. When you're animating in 3D, you have to do something called key poses. While key poses is something that you also do in 2D, when you do key poses in 3D, you're able to have the computer sort of just calculate between each key pose in order to sort of automate the animation process. rather than just to automate the animation process rather than having to do each frame individually. This allows you to also have like higher frame rates within games. So this is an example of me key posing in Blender. So here we have one Among Us model, and I want to make it walk to the other Among Us model. And basically, what I do is that I set one point over there, over here, and then I put in a keyframe. So that's the first key pose. And then afterwards, I place it, I move the model over, once I figure out what axis it is. Yeah. So I move over the model to here, and then I tell the computer, it's like, hey, I want it to move here. And basically, all the computer does is that it just like fills in the gaps from here to here, and it just automatically walks there on its own. Of course, if you want to have a more detailed animation, you need to, you have to have more key poses in it, but this was just a general example of like some getting from one place to another. So another thing that you have to keep in mind in the differences between 2D and 3D games is the physics. 2D physics tends to, you tend to have like one less dimension to worry about. So that's like, it's sort of restrictive to where the player can explore. So you don't really have to worry about the player. Like if you're doing a side scroller, you don't have to worry about the player moving towards or away from you. And then with 3D physics, you need to keep track of everything, which even if it's something that's not being used. Like in Metroid Dread, they probably had to keep the Y rotation still, and one of the axes still, just so like the player doesn't accidentally go towards one direction, towards like going closer to the camera. And then here's an example of when the physics went wrong in one of my previous projects that I worked on. So here you'll see what happens. For here, I forgot to account for the gravity of the enemy AI, so it just kept carrying me up. And it's just something that you have to keep in mind with the physics, like when you're programming. Yep. And then, all right. And then something with, this is sort of just like some general comments on like something, a lot of things that I tend to notice when I play 3D games. With 2D games, with 3D games, it's a lot easier for it to feel like empty, or if something feels off. So 2D games have less paths for the player to explore, and just because of naturally, it's just like you only have to worry about 2 dimensions rather than 3. You can get away with a lot of lack of details in certain areas, but in 3D games, you need to account for like everywhere where the player can go. And while the same thing applies to 2D games, it's not as you have to worry more about it in 3D. So like a lot of open world games tend to just like stuff their games with features. A prominent example of this is GTA. There's like so many like different types of mini games and stuff that you could do in there. And it's just like, so it can fill its world with a bunch of features, even though not all of it just like adds to the gameplay. So yeah, as I said, it could be easily separated from real life, and when it comes to a 2D game. But that just means that with a 3D game, you have the opportunity to make it more immersive or more of an experience for the player themselves. And it could come off as more realistic, and then it's a lot easier, as I said, for people to feel when something is off. Sometimes developers just add in like a nice little like physics thing or something that you could break from time to time. Like in Half-Life Alyx, you're able to pick up one of the markers and just like write on certain windows or whiteboards. And then in something like Overwatch, before the start of every match, there's a little basketball that you could try and shoot into the hoop, and then it will play like little confetti if you're able to get it in. And then just another thing when it comes to the art of 3D games, Pixel art is easier for it to like age well because of the detail that they had at the time. And like when they first started out in 3D, a lot of it was very low poly just because the systems at the time couldn't handle such high detailed rendering. And as you could, in the next slide, as you can see, just like some of it, like when you go back to an older game with some of the graphics, like older 3D games don't tend to age as well as something like a 2D game. But at the end of the day, it's that 2D games can be simpler and easier to produce, but it's more limiting to what you can do. And while 3D is still like somewhat harder to produce in a game, there's a lot more opportunities for it to be more immersive for the player. All right, and that being said, we're going to be going into announcements. So just a few announcements. We have a Blender workshop this Friday. For those of you who don't know what Blender is, it is a 3D modeling program. And we're going to be going over the basics of how to use it, and then I'll be teaching you how to model something within the software. And I believe it's in the links. It's in the link above. I'll have, I think one of the people will send it again, or it should be in the pinned messages of the meeting general. We have the link to download Blender there. If you can download that ahead of the workshop, that would be great. If not, don't worry, still come. And it should be a pretty quick download. And then just a reminder that we're going to be holding our game jam on the 29th. Still time for you to sign up for that. It's going to be taking place on the Halloween weekend, and it will end right before Halloween, so you can still celebrate or hang out with people and do whatever you want to do. We're also collaborating with some other computer science clubs for a hackathon. We're going to be having a sign-in interest sheet, and that form should be there in the group of links that was sent. The hackathon will be taking place in spring of 2022, and you're not committing to it. So we just want to gauge about how many people we'll be getting, and then just so we can allocate the proper funds and everything. And then finally, we have our club merch. For those of you who are here, I'm wearing one. Got the nice little logo here, and then the back right here. Yeah, so our club merch, the $20 each, and then we have small, medium, large, and extra large. And then it also comes with a free membership to the club. And yeah, that's about it for the club meeting. For those of you who are in person, we have the sign-in sheet in the meeting general chat. And then we also, yeah, that would be great. And if you want to buy any of the club merch, so just contact our treasurer, Enzo, if you want to buy the merch. The deadline, okay. The deadline for the game pitch games will be on the 19th. On November 19th, not today. Yeah. I believe they're on November 19th. All right. Yeah, if that's it, then you can go meet with your teams if you want, or you could stay and chill on call. I believe that's all we have for the meeting, right? Yeah. I can't think of anything else. Yeah, just again, contact our treasurer, Enzo, if you want to buy membership or get a shirt, and then we'll have that ready for you.